little child, and he was clean.
Hallelujah. Okay.
And he returned to the man of Yahuah, he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, Behold, now I know that there is no Yahuah, no Elohim in all the earth, but in Israel.
But in Israel, okay.
Now therefore I pray thee, take a blessing in thy servant. But he said, As the sovereign liveth, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused.
So Elisha is not going to take the gifts that Naaman is offering him because the Father has blessed Naaman through, this is very important, through Naaman. Excuse me, through Elisha. Read on.
And Naaman said, Shall there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servant 2 mules burden of earth? For thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice unto Elohims,
Right.
but unto Yahuah.
Right, verse 17. Anybody know what just happened here? And Naaman says, Shall there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servant, which is Naaman, 2 mules, burden of earth, for thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offerings nor sacrifice unto other Elohims, but unto the sovereign. What just happened now? We have Naaman, because we have Elisha is not accepting any of the gifts, none of them. But we have Naaman is asking for these 2 mules now to carry earth. Because he's saying that from henceforth after now, I will not make any sacrifices until any other Elohim but to the Elohim of Yahuah. We're talking about Jerusalem being such a set-apart place. So we have Naaman here now is saying, listen, with these 2 mules, give me now enough soil from this set-apart land, load it into the sacks, okay, of the mule here, and when I go back to my land, I'm going to now take that soil and build an altar upon that soil and never offer up any peace offerings or anything to no other Elohim but to the Elohim of Yashra'al. That's I was like, wow. You know, because this guy has had leprosy and the Father has just healed him through Naaman now, and so he's showing his gratitude. And what if we were the same way, but we also would show our gratitude towards the Father the way that now this is a stranger. He's shown his gratitude for everything that the Father has done to him, for him, and we should also be in like mind, being willing now to make these ultimate sacrifices for the Father. Read on, please. Let's finish this up.
In this thing, the sovereign parted thy servant, that when my master goeth into the house of Rimmon to worship there, and he leaneth on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon. When I bow down myself in the house of Rimmon, Yahuah pardon thy servant in this thing. And he said unto him, Go in peace. So he departed from him a little way.
Watch what happens.
But Gehazi, but Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of Yahuah, said, Behold, my master hath Behold, my master has spread Naaman, this Syrian, in not receiving at his hand
Mm-hmm.
that which he brought, but as Yahuah liveth, I will run after him and take somewhat of him.
Right, okay.
So Gehazi followed after Naaman, and when Naaman saw him running after him, he lighted down from the chariot to meet him and said, all is well. All is well.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, all is well. My master has sent me, saying, behold, even now there be come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver and 2 changes of garments.
So now we have Gehazi, or Gehazi, lying. Okay, he's lying now on, we have Elisha here. Read on.
And Naaman said, be content, take 2 talents. And he urged him, and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags, with 2 changes of garments, and laid them upon 2 of his servants, and they bare them before him. And when he came to the tower, he took them from their hand and bestowed them in the house. And he let the men go, and they departed. But he went in and stood before his master. And Elisha said unto him, whence comest thou? Gehazi, and he said, thy servant went no whither.
So he lied, right? Okay.
And he said unto him, went not mine heart with thee, when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? Is it a time to receive money and to receive garments, and olive yards, and vineyards, and sheep, and oxen, and manservants, and maidservants? The leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave unto thee, and unto thy seed forever.
For how long?
Forever.
And upon his what?
His seed.
So, Mr. Carr, there is, remember this now, there is a such thing as, we calling it generational curses. All right? So this curse did not fall upon just Gehazi, but on his whole seed. And what fell upon him now was leprosy. All right? And we're going to define that a little bit more. You done with that?
And he went out from his presence a leopard as white as snow.
Okay. And again, that word leprosy now is actually the Hebrew word Tzar, Tazaraf. All right? So, the question is now, what causes Tazaraf? To those of us that's watching us on YouTube, if I can get it all down, you let me know as I can. What causes Tazaraf? For one, we know lying, right? But let's start with the way that I have it outlined on the paper here. We have 1, gossip. And again, this is not a personal attack against anyone, but we're about to go into a couple of things here. Gossip causes Tazaraf. Slander causes Tazaraf. Lies or lying causes Tazaraf. Arrogance causes Tazaraf. Envy. Watch this now. Rehashing past arguments that were supposed to have been settled, and scoffing. All these things brings Tazaraf. Now, there are writings in the Mishnah where, and I believe, and I truly believe this, there was a time when Yashra'al was so spiritual and we were so interconnected with one another, because take for example, we have already brought out things on what is actually a relationship. A relationship is two people coming together. And that bond between those two people now are so unique, where you can actually, like a lot of us might say now that are married, wow, I can actually now pick up my wife or my Yashra'al's conversation because you're so intertwined with one another that you know each other's, you're one accord. So now there was a time where it talks that when any of these things took place with this solid relationship, gossip, slander, lies, arrogance, any of these things here, your significant partner now was able to pick up those things. And the person's countenance would change. Even today, you can see now, if there's a problem, you can tell whether or not your significant other is lying or not, because you can, their countenance begins to change. Their mannerism begins to change. Just like the old Walt Disney cartoon they used to have out, Pinocchio. Remember, whenever Pinocchio would lie, his nose would grow. There was actually like a discolor or something now happening to the person to let you know that they were actually lying. This is how well-toned that we once were when we were following Torah. And we're going to show some of this in Scripture. So again, what causes Tazaroth? Gossip, slander, lies, arrogance, envy, rehashing past arguments, and scoffing. A little L here. All right, so again, this is not a personal attack against anyone. The consequences for denying the Father of Yahuah. Again, the consequences for denying the Father of Yahuah. 2 Kings, the 7th chapter, verse 1 through 20. 1 through 20. If we can have Yahuah, you have the Sefer Bible, right?
Yes.
And Yonatan, you have the Sefer Bible too, right?
No, I don't.
Here, no.
Oh no, I didn't want.
I have the scriptures version. This is super.
That might be a little bit different. Zakim, if you could do that for us, please.
2 Kings 7 verse 1. Then Elisha said, Hear ye the word of Yahuah. Thus saith Yahuah, Tomorrow about this time shall a measure of fine flour be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, in the gate of Samaria.
Okay, so this is all happening around Northern Kingdom. Another name for Northern Kingdom is Samaria. And this is a prophecy that Elisha is sharing with Northern Kingdom. All right, read on.
Then a sovereign on whose hand the king leaned against the man of Elohim and said, Behold, if Yahuah would make windows in heaven, might this thing be? And he said, Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shalt not eat thereof.
Okay, this is what's going to get extremely, extremely interesting now. So there was an officer of the king whose hand leaned and answered the man of the Father, which is Elisha here, and said, Behold, watch what's going on. So he's communicating with Elisha. Now there's a great famine in the land of Samaria, a great famine, to the point where our people now are eating. Read the history on what's going on here now, is that we're eating our children. Eating our children. Listen, I cook my daughter today, next week you cook your daughter or your son. This is what was happening. And the reason why there was such a great famine was because the nation of Yashra'al, particularly here now Samaria, they would not follow Torah, would not do it. So being that you're not going to follow Torah, what I'm going to do now is send plagues upon you. Anybody know the 4 plagues or the 4 punishments that the scriptures talk about that he would put upon Israel for being disobedient? The sword, right? Anybody know the next one? Famine. Pestilence. Okay, you Yeah, now, and what was the fourth one? I think it's war, isn't it? We'll come back just to double check. But those four things would be sent upon the nation of Yashra'al for being disobedient. And so he's questioning now. He's saying, listen, you know what? This famine is so severe. If the father of Yahuah was to open up the windows of Shamayim, it would not be enough to take care of the famine that's going on right now. So he's questioning, and he's not believing in the prophecy that Elisha is sharing with him. Read on, just with the whole nation of northern kingdom Israelites.
2 Kings 7:3.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 4 lepers
Mm-hmm.
men at the entering in of the gate. And they said one to another, why sit we here until we die?
Mm-hmm.
If we say we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit still here, we die also. Now therefore come, and let us fall into the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall but die.
Mm-hmm.
And they
And where were these lepers at? Right, they were at the gate, so they were not in Jerusalem. They were outside of the city. They were leprous, okay? And leprous, according to scripture, is what about through gossip, slander, lies, arrogance, envy, rehashing past arguments, and scoffing. Read on.
Verse 5. And they rose up in the twilight to go into the camp of the Syrians. And when they were come to the uttermost part of the camp of Syria, behold, there was no man there. For Yahuah had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host. And they said one to another, Lo, the king of Yashra'al have hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come upon us. Wherefore they arose and fled in the twilight, and left their tents, and their horses, and their donkeys, even the camp as it was, and fled for their life. And when these lepers came to the uttermost part of the camp, they went into one tent, and did eat and drink, and carried thence silver and gold and raiment, and went and hid it, and came again and entered into another tent, and carried thence also, and went and hid it.
Okay, so we see what's going on here now. These are leprous men, these 4 men. They were not allowed inside the city. And so now the Syrians were actually encamped around Jerusalem, northern kingdom Israelites at this time, because, there was a split here. And so they began to raid, okay, the tents of the Syrians. Okay, read on, because it's going to get real interesting.
Verse 9. Then they said one to another, we do not well. This day is a day of good tidings, and we hold our peace. If we tarry till the morning light, some mischief will come upon us. Now therefore come, that we may go and tell the king's household.
Right, anybody know why they're now saying this? They raided the Syrian camp. There's plenty of food there. They're taking gold and silver, and they're hiding this, the whole 9 yards. So they have plenty to eat, but they're outside of the city. Why do you believe that they're saying that the things that they're doing is considered mischief? Okay, no problem. Read on verse 10.
Verse 10. So they came and called unto the porter of the city, and they told them, saying, we came to the camp of the Syrians, and behold, there was no man there, neither voice of man, but horses tied and donkeys tied, and the tents as they were. And he called the porters, and they told it to the king's house within. And the king arose in the night, and said unto his servants, I will now show you what the Syrians have done to us. They know that we be hungry, therefore are they gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the field, saying, when they come out of the city, we shall catch them alive and get into the city.
Right, so everybody knows what's going on now. Why these 4 lepers are saying that, listen, what we are doing now is mischief. We all know why now, right?
Because they're stealing, right?
Yeah, they're looting the tents of the Syrians. Okay, now they were ousted out of the city because they have they have leprosy.
Mm-hmm.
But those inside of the city, they're starving. They're hungry. And so why should we now take all of this for ourselves? That's mischief, because we are all brothers. So what we're going to do now is go back now and talk to the porter, the officers here now, tell the king that we found the camp of the Syrians barren. I mean, there's nobody there. So that now those that are in the city can come out and eat. So it's like, we're all a family here. I'm rich. We're all rich. You know, I hit the lotto. We all hit the lottery. So I can't now take it and this is mine. This is all about a mishpachah. All right. So read on. It's gonna get even more interesting.
Why would they call it mischief?
Because you're not sharing. If it's just like I said, I mean, the nation they're hungry. They're eating their children, and so they have all of this abundance, and you can't keep it just for yourself. And they said, we continue now to go from tent to tent, just eating up everything, taking all of the gold and everything that is there, the new clothing and all this stuff like that. But your brother now is in despair.
Right. So they're not taking it back over there. They're just keeping it for themselves.
Yeah, and so let's take some gold and some silver and stuff like that. And once this leprosy is all cleared up and stuff like that, I'm rich.
Rich, yeah.
You know, I got some fresh garments, the whole 9 yards, so I'm good. But again, it's always about sharing and looking after the well-beings of your brother. Okay, read on, Zakin, please.
Where am I, 13?
You're at
Yeah.
13, okay.
2 Kings 7 and 13. And one of his servants answered and said, let some take, I pray you, 5 of the horses that remain, which are left in the city. Behold, they are as all the multitude of Yashra'al that are left in it. Behold, I say, they are even as the multitude of the Israelites that are consumed. And let us send and see. They took therefore 2 chariot horses, and the king sent after the host of the Syrians, saying, go and see. And they went after them unto Jordan. And lo, all the way was full of garments and vessels, which the Syrians had cast away in their haste. And the messengers returned and told the king. And the people went out and spoiled the tents of the Syrians. So a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, according to the word of Yahuah.
So remember hearing this before? Remember, Elisha had prophesied about this. And the reason why the Assyrians had left, because they had thought, because the father had made this great rumbling noise, and they thought now that this great multitude of people now was coming out to actually go to war with them. They said that the Israelites had hired the Hittites and the Egyptians. And so they ran and left everything there. They left the horses, the garments, the gold, the silver, they left everything there. All of it there. But remember now, this is something that's very important. There was a man that doubted. Everybody read this story before? Okay. Yeah. Remember, there was a man that doubted the prophecy of Elisha. Watch what happens. Read on.
Verse 17. And the king appointed the sovereign on whose hand he leaned to have the charge of the gate. And the people trod upon him in the gate. And he died, as the man of Elohim had said, who spake when the king came down to him. And it came to pass, as the man of Elohim had spoken to the king, saying, 2 measures of barley for a shekel, and a measure of fine flour for a shekel, shall be tomorrow about this time in the gate of Samaria. And that sovereign answered the man of Elohim and said, Now, behold, if Yahuah should make windows in heaven, might such a thing be? And he said, Behold, thou shalt see it with your eyes, but shalt not eat thereof. And so it fell out unto him, for the people trod upon him in the gate, and he died.
So you see what just happening? What happened here? The same man that mocked or did the scoffing, okay, against Elisha here, he died. So just as he told him, you should see it, but you won't eat it. All right. So again, just making sure that we understand Tazaroth and understanding what brings about Tazaroth. And again, we're not talking about pimples and all that other stuff here. That's not what we're talking about when we look up the word leprosy. Now, let me read some information to the Mishpachah here, and I'll have this for you next week. Listen to this real carefully. Again, this is not a personal attack against anyone. According to the King James translation of the Bible, both Moses and Miriam suffered from leprosy, okay, at some point in their lives. But the word often translated as leprosy is actually now Tazaroth. It is not the same as the disease we call leprosy, also known as Hansen's disease today. In the Bible, Tazaroth is a skin disease that can take many different forms. And in particular, bad cases can manifest itself on one's clothing, their personal belongings, and your house. Your house, all right? In addition to the skin, Mishpachah, I say all the time, it is very, very important that we make sure who we are bringing into our houses. For example,